Welcome to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling. You are about to discover impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you, so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Be sure you visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com. While you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now tune in, get ready, and enjoy the journey of emerging as a leader of exception in the 21st century.
Welcome, everyone, to the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast. I'm your host, Vicki Noethling, coming to you from Roswell, Georgia. The goal of this podcast is to bring topics and guests that will empower you to become that confident leader and take your business and your life to the next level. Today, I'm very excited to bring to you Denise Brown. And let me tell you about Denise. She says she's a unicorn, a physician, a successful exit entrepreneur, a mom of 2 boys, happily married for 28 years. And she figured out how to have it all, at least her version. And Denise wants to share that what she has figured out over the past 25 years of trial, error, and lots of laughs. She brings operational expertise from the startup world, consulting expertise from the VC world, and a mix in what she's learned mentoring hundreds of leaders around the globe. It adds up to some crazy stories about personal growth, parenting hacks, and a radical humor to bring out the best in you, your thoughts, and your work. And we're going to talk about how you can have it all right now. So please join me in welcoming my guest, Denise Brown. Now, I did mention in there that she's a doctor. I think I just briefly whizzed over that. But so do you prefer me to call you Dr. Brown?
You can call me whatever you like.
All right.
Doesn't bother me at all. My dad insists on calling me Dr. Brown. But
yeah, Dr. Brown. Well, he paid for that. I can see that for sure.
You are not wrong. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he probably signs "Love, dear Dr. Brown." Love Dad.
No, it's actual comedy because as my husband likes to say, I'm a real doctor, but he's also technically a doctor. He has a PhD in engineering, and so his mother likes to call us the Doctors Brown, which just giggles. But yeah, no, we really don't stand on a lot of ceremony in our house.
Well, I interview a lot of PhD doctors, so it's always nice to have a doctor with the MD after that. And we're not even going to talk about your aches, your pains.
We don't have to anyway. Yeah, we could, but we
that's true. Well, it may go there. I don't know. We'll see.
I love it.
All right. So again, we always start with 2 easy questions. I say easy, but sometimes people prove me wrong. The first is, where do you live? Where do you call home right now?
I live in Austin, Texas, which I've been here about 5.5 years, and I love it. It's really, I'm looking at rolling hills and oak trees and the downtown skyline in the distance. Absolutely gorgeous.
Nice. Where'd you come from before?
I actually grew up in New Mexico, and I spent a long time in California, did my undergrad there and a lot of my residency training in California, and had a clinical practice there for about 15 years. And then I've kind of been everywhere. Yeah. But I would say the majority of my time sort of in and around my schooling and training and whatnot was in California, in Northern California, Palo Alto.
Oh, I know that area. Yep. Very good. So you started to talk about the story. I gave all these wonderful things that you've done and you're doing now. And I'd love for you to share your story of maybe some of the twists, the turns, the ups and the downs, just so that the audience just is reminded that success does not come via a straight path.
Well, I think that's really important. Yeah.
The journey does have twists and turns, um, oftentimes during that journey, we think that we cannot have it all. So let's just talk about really what your story is and what has really informed who you are today. And as always, I say, and more importantly, why you do what you do today.
Yeah. Well, I started out in a very typical way. Did my undergrad. I went to Berkeley and did my medical school, and I was sort of on the track, the kind of classic oldest daughter, all the good grades, la 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 la, all the things. And when I was a third year medical student, I went home to practice my physical diagnosis skills. So you learn how to do all this stuff. And it
Mhm.
was spring break, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna practice on my mom. It'll be so exciting, like, learn my. And I listened to her heart, and I went, oh my goodness, I heard a sound that I shouldn't be hearing. And I sort of started asking her questions like little baby doctor. And I said, oh, are you short of breath? How do you feel? And she's like, actually, I do get short of breath. Anyway, it turns out that I had sort of listened to this sound and found out she had like fluid around her heart, and she had this autoimmune disease that she ended up then getting into treatment for. And about, sadly, six months later, she had this horrible side effect of one of the medications, which no one even uses anymore. I mean, this was almost 30 years ago now, or more than 30 years ago now.
Mhm.
And she got sepsis, and she ended up dying in the ICU just after her
Oh,
third birthday.
wow.
And I was, like I said, this little Miss Goody Two Shoes baby doctor thought I kind of knew everything, and it was, simultaneously the worst and best thing that probably ever happened to me, because I went from
Mhm.
being this sort of like, look at me, I'm the la la la, to, oh my gosh, life is short. What the f am I doing? And
Mhm.
today is the only day that really matters. And so um,
Exactly.
I didn't have a whole lot of time to grieve for her, because I had to keep going with my
Mhm.
schooling, because I knew that that would be one thing she would have insisted on. And I just sort of put it all to the side, which is really not a recommended course of. I don't recommend that. At any rate, flash forward some 30 years. But what was great about having this happen to me is that I quickly learned that the people you care about, and the things you're passionate about, is where you need to put your energy, and that there are a lot of other things in the world that want to take your time and your attention. And you have to give it to them. And so if you're going to give it to them, you should give it to them with intention. You should give it to them knowing exactly what it is that you're doing. And if it doesn't fit with what it is you're trying to achieve, then maybe you should not. So I kind of got to fast forward at the ripe age of 25 into a little bit of the zero F's era, that I think many
Yeah.
finally come to in our 50s. But that really informed everything that I did afterwards. So I've made choices and concessions quite deliberately over the course of my career that maybe some people looking externally would be like, oh, that's a kind of an odd choice. But it was always about, who do I want to be with? Where do I sort of need to feel my people? And how that has actually turned out to be really great for me. And so in my book that just came out, I had this long section. It was really funny, because when I sat down to write the book, I thought, well, I'll just put little vignettes of my life in to kind of illustrate different points. And then my editor was actually like, you know what? I actually want this whole story together, because you did a lot of unique things, and maybe people need to hear that in one lump sum. And so the first sort of chapter of the book is kind of these choices that I made. And I'll give you an example. I went my husband and I kind of flew back and forth across the country as we were doing our training. He was at Stanford, I was in Chicago. I finally caught up to him at Stanford, and it was my internship year, and we were just married, and it seemed all hunky dory. And then he finished his doctorate way faster than we expected, and suddenly he had a faculty position on the other side of the country. And
Oh,
now I'm
wow.
like, hey, this is my second, not quite my second year of marriage, and I'm living by myself again in an apartment. Um, and I had a patient named Claudia who was sadly dying of leukemia. She had failed 2 bone marrow transplants, and we were kind of, just trying to keep her comfortable. And I would go and visit her at nighttime, like before I left the hospital, just to be like, hey, see you later, see you tomorrow. And she said to me, Denise, why are you here? And I was like, what do you mean I'm here to visit you? She goes, no, no, no. Like, you're always talking about Alex. He's there. Why are you here? And I was like, oh, well, I'm at Stanford. People don't leave Stanford. Like, that's not something that's done. She's like, well, I think it's silly. And so she kind of blew my mind one night.
No.
I thought to myself, what would it take? What would it take to maybe do something differently? So I went into my program director and I said, hey, this is going to sound really crazy, but is there a way where I could spend some time at Vanderbilt, which is where my husband was teaching, and I could do some of my rotations and stuff there so that I could spend more time with him? And he said basically, wow, no one's ever asked us that. But let me see what I can do. And sure enough,
Mm.
it all worked out. And I went back and forth my second year. And by my third year, I was at Vanderbilt full time. I did a chief residency year there. And I
Awesome.
was there with my husband, and we bought a house and we had the dogs, and so I thank Claudia for that. But she was the kind of like, she just asked
Yeah.
the question. And so that's what I've kind of done for the rest of my career. Just be like, oh, wait, why am I here? What am I doing?
Mm.
And so that really kind of segues in to how you figure out what your all is. You have to kind of sit with yourself and ask, why am
Mm.
I here? And what am I doing about it?
Yeah. Uh, and I often say in these interviews, when things like this come up, it is that, for me, uh, COVID was kind of a God plan. I know terrible things happened and so many people died, but I think it really was God saying, y'all have to slow down
Mhm.
and reflect on what the heck you're doing. Because I think so many people were go, 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 thinking of the future, worrying about the past, and not even understanding what they're missing in the present. And
Yeah.
and and that what if question, when I was a project manager for a lot of years, and what if was a big part of how, what could make me effective, because I was always questioning, what if we did this? And your point of, I never thought of that, or why not? Why don't we try this? Maybe it hasn't ever been done before, but why not?
But maybe I should be the first one. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And I think
be
that
that innovator. I mean, how
I
exciting.
for sure. And I think it takes a little bit of courage to sort of be the one to ask. But chances are lots of other people have thought about it and just never kind of taken
Yeah.
that, we could call it a bold step, we could call it a baby step. Like who knows what it actually is, but to sort of say, what would it take for this to happen? Like, this is the outcome I envision. What would it take for that to happen? And I think a lot of times people don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to, bother anyone, whatever kind of phrase we want to insert here. Um, and really, people are genuinely good, I think, and people want to help one another. And so if you just kind of come very honestly and ask, most of the time people are going to go out of their way to kind of help you create what you're trying to achieve. And so I think that is a great lesson for anyone, to sort of just ask. And it's not like I need this or you have to X. It's, what would it take for this to happen? That
Yeah.
and that's a very open-ended and I think really collaborative way of,
Mhm.
trying to architect your own life instead of kind of being sort of in the passenger seat and who knows where we're going.
Yeah. I always say, if it's not going to put me in jail or kill me, I should give it a go. But I remember, as you were talking about that, I remember whenever years ago, probably in 2003, no, 2006, I guess, the company that I was with had just introduced working from home remotely a couple days a week. And they had all these rules around it. You couldn't have it on a Friday or a Monday because that would be just not good. And so I did that in the pilot program for 2 years, and it was interesting. I saw people that really hated it because they needed the social interaction. But so then I got promoted to a different role, but they initially said, you can continue your 3 days a week working from home. and I was very successful. I think I actually worked, 24/7 during those times, which is important to remember. But um, then one of the folks that had a small child wanted to do the same thing since Vicki was doing it. And they told me, well, you're going to have to stop because we don't want to set a precedent. And I thought, how narrow-minded. And then now, how many years later, everybody's working from home and making it work and figuring it out. But I hated that word. We can't do this for you because it could set a precedent, rather than thinking, well, what are the value and the benefits of this if we do this for our work environment?
Yeah, I mean that's a leadership style, right? Like it's a scarcity versus abundance kind of leadership style.
Mhm.
Do I trust my employees? Do I have faith in them? Do I have the confidence to know that they're going to do what they're,
Yeah.
sort of supposed to be doing in the hours that they're supposed to be doing it? And do I give them the ability to kind of make that happen? Or am I
Mhm.
going to kind of be hovering over and sort of and that's so true. I think that whole helicopter snowplow kind of it applies to parenting, but it really applies to leading people as well. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
my theory as a parent was always to make myself obsolete, to raise independent humans who might want to come back and hang out with me, but who didn't need to. And so to give them the tools to go figure out how to do it and to know that there was always a safety net if they needed one. And that's my leadership style at work too. It's like, here's
Yeah.
where we're going. Here are the tools I think you need to get there. I have 100% confidence in your ability to go do it. If you run into a snag, you know where to find me. And I have
Yeah.
to go get her done. Like, I don't care when you do it, where you do it, just go do it. And I think that really instills autonomy and agency and gives people confidence, and then also a desire to really put their best foot forward when
Yeah,
instead you're
for
kind of
sure.
ticking off these boxes and knowing that you're never going to make grumpy boss man happy because he's always going to find something wrong.
Right.
That's not somewhere I want to that's
Yeah,
not
and
want to
and
work.
also, talk about tough decisions, is, do you want to stay working for grumpy boss man?
Right.
If having it all and right now may mean that you have to go outside of your comfort zone, start over, knowing that you're going to maybe not have it comfortable initially because of learning something new. But if you think of it from a positive aspect of exciting, of doing something new, getting to know new people or whatever, and leaving this really toxic environment that you may be in right now.
Oh yeah. And I think we've all been there. We've all had stories of
Mhm.
that, right? And it's
For sure.
really easy to kind of let those kind of golden handcuffs, whether it's money or it's, a feeling of like, well, I'm too old to learn new things, or whatever it is.
Mhm.
However, whatever color those handcuffs are, you do get kind of stuck. And I think that happens to a lot of people. They feel stuck. So then they feel disconnected from, what brings them real satisfaction. And then that is just a horrible negative feedback loop, because then that makes you feel more stuck and less satisfied. And before you know it, you're kind of like, you've got the Sunday scaries on Thursday because you just can't think of another big long work week ahead. And that, I think, is where none of us want to be. And so having the kind of courage to sort of say, well, what is over here, and being open to that. And that doesn't mean that you have to be kind of willy-nilly and diving after everything, but I do think that it's great if you're wandering down a path to kind of look off to the side, to see what else might be out there. And what would it take to go explore, this opportunity or that one. And once you have that kind of as a mindset of an openness and a curiosity, then I think, like you were saying, there is no one straight path journey, right? It's all kind of a
Mhm.
wander in the woods, and you decide how far off the path you want to wander, and maybe you come back to the path, and maybe you keep going. You just don't know.
Mhm.
Um, but if you put blinders on and you don't let yourself look, I think that's really the recipe for burnout, for feeling stuck, for kind of just feeling miserable. And I mean, my
Mhm.
goodness, we spend so much time at work. I mean, why wouldn't we want to find some joy in it,
Mhm.
however that looks?
I always suggest to people too, if they're not happy in what they're doing, to volunteer in some, nonprofit or whatnot, because they need all the skill sets that the for-profit places need, and you get exposure to maybe something else that you are more suited for or would be more um, interested in doing, thriving in.
Yeah.
And it's not as scary because you haven't given up that paycheck or that whatever status, but it really opens up your eyes to opportunities.
Yes. And I think it also kind of lets you know maybe how good you have it, gives you a little sense of, kind of, oh, here's a reality check for me. Maybe I need to spend a little bit more time being grateful for where I'm at and what I'm doing, and allow myself to kind of give back to some other people. And I think that whole sense of creating your own and then volunteering for others in a community is a huge factor in just overall well-being and satisfaction. You can't really do without it. We were wired to be communal, creatures, and and that is one of, I think, the greatest joys. And it doesn't have to be massive. It's not
Yeah,
like
that's exactly right.
some giant undertaking. But even just a little bit of time once a month makes a huge difference, I think, in terms of what our satisfaction is around life. And that's really when I talk about having it all. It's
Mhm.
really about the things that satisfy us. It's not the sort of external, oh, she went here for school, or she has this job or this car, or whatever. That's all stuff from the outside. It's the inside, quiet, moment with yourself where you're driving home from your volunteer experience and you just suddenly you're singing along to the radio because your heart is full. Like, how do you go and create those other things, and what
Mhm.
are your priorities to make that happen consistently? And again, it doesn't have to take a lot of time,
Mhm.
but just those little bits can really give you this sense of purpose, but also this deep sense of satisfaction for a life well lived. And that's what we all deserve, and you don't have to be old to have it.
Exactly right. But if you are old, like, I'm 67, don't be afraid to try new things, for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's such a world outside your window. And I think the other thing too is that we have in our minds the sunk cost kind of, mentality. Everyone does. Well, I've done
Yeah.
this for so long, I have to keep doing it. I can't do anything else. And that's not true. I mean, most people's skills are widely applicable to any number of industries or locations, whatever it
That's
is.
right.
If you're a project manager and that's what you did for your work, you could go be a project manager at a preschool and hang out with the, kids and make, finger paints. Like, there's so many different ways that you can take those same kind of skills that you've honed over the years and just put them in a slightly different venue, with completely different and spectacular results in terms of, like, making yourself feel like today was a really good day.
So, two things that I want to make sure that I ask you, and that is what about your motto, what your life motto is, but also I want you to talk about what the reasoning behind your book title. So, two things.
You got it. Well, I guess if I had a life motto, it would be you can have it all, but you can't do it all. And I
Mhm.
think that's very particular because you cannot do all the things. We think we're supposed to be doing all these things. We cannot do them all. So you have to be very particular about the things that you're going to do. And even more important, you need to be super particular about the things you will not do. So I'm all about, I
Mhm.
have a hell no list that I keep in my phone. These are the things that I will not do. I have my sort of general tendency is to say yes, and I need to know more about it. And then I have to understand, will this fit does this bump up against my hell no list? In which case, no, I'm very sorry. But I think, especially as women, we pick up a lot of roles unintentionally. We just don't
Mhm.
even realize it. And that's how we end up being exhausted and cranky and tired. And nobody
Mhm.
needs that. So I'm very intentional about what I will do, and more particularly about what I won't do. I think that's important. And then I'm very fierce in defending those criteria and those boundaries on my family time, on my me time, which does not have to be a lot. But I need a half an hour to read my book or sit by myself and do nothing. That is I need about an hour a day, half an hour with my family, half an hour for me, and then anything else, I'm good to go. So I just am real discreet about that. And we talk about that in the book about how you can generate your own hell no list, how it really doesn't take that much time. Um, and then my book title, my goodness, well, I have two boys, and which are really fun. They're 18 and almost 21. So
Wow.
there's a lot of boy energy in my house, always has been. And so I've always had these fairy goddaughters, and they've been my friends' daughters, or my people at work. Anyway, I had this lovely collection of young women who I've always called my fairy goddaughters. And so when I had the opportunity to sit down and write the book, and I was like, well, what would I want to leave, as like my little mantras? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to write my seven prescriptions for my fairy goddaughters. And because I'm the fairy god doctor, why not? And they've always sort of given me a hard time and given me that nickname. And so I thought, okay, well, it's going to be the fairy god doctor's guide to a good life. And the is a really important word in the title, because it's not the good life, it is a good life. And everyone gets to decide what good means to them. And at least we have some foundational principles to help get us there. But I believe that every single person deserves to have a good life, and to be filled with joy and satisfaction and friends and laughter. And there are ways to do that, even in the thick of the mud. We can find our way. And so that's why I wrote it.
That's awesome. So right now in your life as it is today, what would you say is the biggest challenge that you have? And what is your greatest opportunity that you see for the future?
Well, I will tell you, doing this book stuff has been really fun, because it's completely out of my normal
Yes.
stuff, and so it's been wacky, and it's parts of it are super uncomfortable for me. Even just putting like my whole story out there, you're like, oh dear, you can't take that back. It's out there now. So that I won't say has been a stumbling block, but it is a little bit uncomfortable. And then like all the kind of social media, all that kind of milieu, again, not my wheelhouse. So I'm just like, hey, I'm gonna do my best, and whatever happens, happens. And it's still just been really fun. And and I am entertained. So I've always had this, like, people always go, oh, you're always laughing, like things come easy. I'm like, no, they don't come easy. I work really hard. But I choose to find the humor and the joy along the
Yeah,
way. And we might have two people have exactly the simultaneously same experiences, but your approach to it is very different. So
absolutely.
I choose to be amused by the world, by myself. I mean, my kids are like, oh my God, Mom, your Instagram is so cringy. And I'm like,
Yeah,
tough.
that's me.
Tough. So
That's
that's the
right.
biggest.
Get over it.
That's right. I am cringy. But then at the same time, it's apparently like they've been saying to my friends, like, I'm so proud of my mom. So I get it. That's fine. But I definitely think that's been the most entertaining. I think that the challenge, I won't say necessarily the hardest part for me is that I still, no matter what, have to be careful of my time, because I get really excited about lots of different things. I try to live what I kind of call a portfolio life. So I have a lot of different jobs that I do. I do consulting work. I do some coaching and mentoring with startups and female founders. I do some speaking, so it's really easy to sort of um, take too much on. And so that's a never ending battle for me. The stuff I'm most excited about now, I've just joined a large investment fund, and as a general partner. And so I'm getting to give people money instead of being the CEO or whomever who used to have to ask for money. So that's been super fun to learn all about, and be on kind of the other side of the table from that stuff. So that's probably what I'm most excited about. My younger son is graduating high school here in a week, and getting ready to
Oh
go off to
my.
college. And yeah, it's just it's such a fun.
Empty nester.
I know, it's such a fun time. Just
Sometimes they
really.
come back though, just letting you know.
Well, there is that. Yeah, there is that.
Actually, though, for me, and my youngest lives with us, and she and I are like best buds. So I enjoy the fact that she's there. My oldest daughter, who's a mom and has two kids, she's like, why don't you kick her out? And I'm thinking, she pays me rent. What the
Yeah, you're
heck?
like, no, no
We
skin off
go to
my
movie.
nose.
We have movie time. We do,
Awesome.
do dog walks, things. And so, I don't
I
know.
love it. I
If she
love
was
it.
a pain in the behind, I would, but she's awesome.
There you go. I mean, that to me is like the ultimate sort of success story. It's funny because people are like, well, how do you define success? I'm really over the concept of success. I am all here for satisfaction. But this morning I got a text message from two of my son's friends, not with my son on that group chat, like the two of them. Hey, Mama Denise, how you doing? We're on our way home from college. We can't wait to see you. Can we stop by on Friday?
Aw, so
Right?
nice.
I mean, I'm like,
Of course.
yeah, I mean, these are the things, right? Where you think, I just feel so grateful that, I have a house where people feel welcome and the kids want to be here and they want to bring their friends and their friends stay. And we all just, everyone is treated with respect and dignity and a lot of laughs. And so that's it for me.
Yeah.
That's my all, period. And so I
No.
really do have it all. And I hope everyone gets to figure out what theirs is. It's really
Yeah.
cool.
And once you know that, then that's what your point is of where you say yes or no.
Yep.
Does it fall in line with those
Yep.
things that are my values, my
Yeah.
um,
And then every
purpose
morning you
in
wake
life?
up and you can't wait to start the day. It's pretty awesome.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, time has flown by. I have enjoyed our conversation so much,
Me
and
too.
I'm sure the audience has too, and will want to get in touch with you. So if you were just listening, you know the drill. You should have been taking notes all the long here. But if you haven't, you can get everything on the show notes and YouTube channel, Vicki Noethling. So please subscribe if you haven't already, as well as my findyourleadershipconfidence.com website. You can subscribe there. Again, in the show notes, you'll find all of this information that I'm going to share right now. So the website is thefairygoddoctor.com. Again, thefairygoddoctor.com. LinkedIn, she is Denise Brown, Denise S. Brown MD. So Denise S. Brown MD. And Instagram is the Fairy God Doctor. I'm going to turn it over to the Fairy God Doctor. She's going to talk to you about her call to action today.
Well, I don't have a massive call to action, except it would be awesome if you checked out the website. It would be great if you wanted to buy the book. I think the book is awesome for graduation gifts. It's a great thing to give to a young woman who's just kind of embarking on her career. The full name of the book is the Fairy God Doctor's Guide to a Good Life: Prescriptions for Working Women. And I would talk a lot about what that means and how to do it. It's filled with a lot of tactics because I'm a tactical person, and it is not long. I hate those business books where you read the front and then you're like, oh, the middle is so boring, and then the end is. I was like, we are going to make this short and sweet. You can find it pretty much all the places you find books: Barnes & Noble, Amazon. I did the audiobook, which is a hoot. I hear that if you listen to it on 1.5 speed, you can get her done in about 2 hours and 15 minutes. So check it out. I think it's fun. And I just want, I want everyone out in the universe to just live the best life they can and have the most fun and the most love and the most joy. And so those are my Fairy God Doctor wishes for everyone. And thanks for having me, Vicki.
Fantastic. Thank you so much again for being a great guest. I just had so much fun, and we'll have to do this again.
Let's do it. I love that.
So as always, I remind everyone that life is a journey, and it's up to you to enjoy the ride. This is Vicki Noethling signing off.
Thank you for tuning into the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast with Vicki Noethling, where we share impactful lessons that help you grow as an individual, grow your confidence, and find the positive and good within you so you powerfully and authentically become the best version of yourself. Remember to visit our website at www.findyourleadershipconfidence.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Find Your Leadership Confidence podcast.